In a silent corner of a Chicago hospital, the air was thick with disbelief and wonder. Moments ago, a baby had entered the world, if it could even be called that. She weighed only 270 grams, lighter than a can of soda, her body so delicate that even the softest touch seemed too much. The doctors stood frozen for a second, torn between awe and fear. No one had ever seen a living infant this small. One nurse broke the silence, her voice trembling, "She's breathing, she's actually breathing." Those words sent a wave of emotion through the room, tears, gasps, and shaky smiles all at once. Outside, the news spread like wildfire. Reporters gathered at the hospital gates, cameras flashing, headlines filling every screen, "The world's smallest baby is born." People around the world watched in amazement, calling it a miracle, a divine act, something beyond science. But inside that delivery room, amid the blinking monitors and quiet prayers, only a few knew the truth, that the birth itself had been far from ordinary. Behind that tiny heartbeat was a story of desperation, courage, and a choice made in the most impossible moment. For now, the world saw only a miracle. But soon, they would learn that the real miracle wasn't just that the baby had survived, it was how she was brought into this world, in a way that no one could have ever imagined. Just minutes before the miracle was announced, the hospital had been in chaos. The mother, Lena, was rushed into the emergency room after sudden and severe complications during her 7th month of pregnancy. Her husband, Mark, clutched her hand tightly, whispering desperate prayers as alarms blared and nurses moved frantically around them. The senior surgeon hadn't yet arrived, and every second was slipping away. The medical team hesitated, torn between saving the mother or the baby. Amid the panic stood a young intern, Dr. Ava, only 24 years old, her white coat too big for her trembling frame. She had never led a delivery this critical before, but something in her heart told her she couldn't just stand by. "I can do this," she said quietly, almost to herself. The room went still for a heartbeat. Mark looked up, eyes filled with fear but also the faintest trace of trust. There was no time to debate. Ava took charge, her hands shaking but her mind sharp, recalling every moment of her training and every reason she had chosen to become a doctor. As she prepared for what could be the most difficult decision of her life, she knew one thing for certain: if she failed, 2 lives would be lost. Yet if she succeeded, the world might witness something extraordinary. And with that fragile hope, she stepped forward into the unknown, unaware that her next move would change medical history forever. The room was tense, every heartbeat measured by the sound of the monitors. Lena's pulse weakened, and the baby showed no signs of movement. Dr. Ava's hands trembled as she realized that traditional methods wouldn't work, the baby was far too small to survive a normal delivery. Then she remembered something, a prototype she had been developing in her spare time, a tiny 3D, printed incubator designed for premature infants. It had never been tested on a real case. The senior doctors had called it too risky, but right now, risk was all they had left. With the team's hesitant approval, Ava gave the order to prepare it. Nurses hurried to bring the device, a small transparent chamber glowing faintly under the surgical lights. Working carefully, Ava performed the delicate procedure, using miniature tools meant for microsurgery. The room held its breath. For a long moment, there was only silence, then, a faint flicker on the heart monitor. The baby's chest moved once, then again. A weak cry followed, so soft that everyone froze. Tears streamed down Ava's face as she whispered, "She's alive." Around her, the entire staff began to weep, laughter and disbelief mixing in the air. Against every medical prediction, against every scientific limit, this impossibly tiny life had begun to fight. It wasn't just a birth, it was the beginning of something that would make the world question what was truly possible. Days turned into weeks, and the tiny baby, named Hope, fought for her life inside the transparent incubator. Her skin was so thin it almost glowed under the soft blue lights, and her heartbeat was barely visible beneath her fragile chest. Every hour was a battle. Nurses spoke to her gently, their voices filled with warmth, as if love itself could help her grow stronger. Mark visited daily, pressing his hand against the glass, whispering, "You're doing great, little one, your mom's waiting for you." Lena, still unconscious from the surgery, lay in the recovery room connected to machines that hummed in quiet rhythm with her daughters. Dr. Ava never left the neonatal ward. She watched over Hope day and night, sleeping in her chair, monitoring every breath, every flicker of life. Other doctors called it a medical miracle, but Ava knew it was more than that. It was the strength of love that kept the baby alive. One morning, after weeks of uncertainty, Lena's eyes fluttered open. Her first words were faint but clear, "Did our baby make it?" Ava smiled, tears filling her eyes as she nodded. "She's stronger than all of us," she whispered. In that moment, the room filled with something no machine could measure: hope, pure and alive. Both mother and child had survived the impossible, bound together by courage, compassion, and one young doctor's refusal to give up. Months later, the hospital that had once echoed with fear was now filled with joy. Little Hope had grown stronger, her once tiny fingers now gripping her father's hand as cameras clicked all around. Doctors, nurses, and reporters gathered to witness the miracle they had all fought for. When Lena carried her daughter out of the hospital for the first time, the crowd applauded, not just for the baby's survival, but for the story that had united so many hearts around the world. Dr. Ava stood quietly in the background, watching with a smile. She had turned her prototype into a breakthrough medical innovation that would soon save other premature babies. But to her, the real achievement wasn't fame or recognition, it was seeing Hope's heartbeat steady and strong. When a reporter asked her how she found the courage that night, she simply said, "Sometimes hope isn't born perfect. It's born fragile, but it teaches us how strong love can be." The story of the world's smallest baby spread across continents, inspiring millions. People called it a miracle of science, faith, and human spirit. And in homes everywhere, families held their children a little closer, reminded that life itself is the greatest miracle of all. As the sun set over Chicago that evening, Ava looked up and whispered softly, "Thank you, Hope, for reminding the world that miracles still happen when humanity refuses to give up."